I just have to input. So no one's seen it. So what do we want to do? You have I hate pie menus.
Careful what you say.
Yeah. Yeah. Pie menus official. All right. What do we want to do? We start with the default cube, and we do nothing special. Just get right into the thinking of the animation nodes. We add a object transform output node. Is it always red? Okay. We just can. Okay. We could move. Okay. I have to select the output object, which I want to put the transformation on it, and then I can move its location, which is pretty unspectacular, but this is kind of the base of the first chapter we want to do, which is object transforming. We could now start with a little bit different, because for having more possibilities, I do with the matrices. I add an object. No, where was it? Object matrix. Translation is a code, okay. Translation matrix, and just plug it in here, and which will do pretty much the same. But if I add a rotation matrix and combine multiple matrices into a list, which should like okay, this anyway. Okay, a list is a list of matrices, and if I want multiple matrices in the transformation, I need a list of matrices, because you see it's half transparent plug, and half transparent always means the node needs a list of objects, not a singular, but a list. I just plug it in here and creates automatically a list. I just put in there the man, this doesn't work. I just put in there the translation. Yeah. And then I can rotate it and then move it. Actually, if I do it in Z direction, let's get back to the standard and just move it a little bit. And then the interesting part is if I switch it, it's possible to rotate it in this way, which is really cool if you remember the watch that you have a circle array of objects. It's the easiest way to do it. And yeah, you can then animate it, since we're doing animation nodes. This would be like, if we get time information, and just plug it in here. Maybe a little bit too fast. Just put a math in there, multiply with, I don't know, 0.1. I love it. 0.01, maybe something like. Caps. Okay. So there we go, and we can instantly change the radius, or I don't know. What about just putting this there, which means a combine vector, and because why not just put a sign in here, because just we can. and then you can do this crazy stuff. So now you see it's really a kind of a programming language. You have to understand there that light blue is a float number, dark blue is an integer number, yellow is a matrix, and so on. You really have to care about this a little bit. Usually if you just connect it, sorry, dark blue is here a vector, but you have integer numbers as well, and if you plug it in, usually it's no problem, but you should a little bit keep it in your mind. Maybe something you would need sometimes, just a simple parent. If you want to put a parent to anything, like just add this in here. There are fortunately some nice parents. Okay. Just select this object, which is the empty. And the output object, which is not the empty, it's just the cube. Nice. Okay. Now the problem was that I got a recursion that he put twice the position on the empty, so both get lost. Just do it once again. How do I? Oh, perfect. So just select the empty and the cube, and does this work? It doesn't, because it's the other empty and the other cube. So here we go, and this just works. So maybe Yati, if you have some driver problems or parenting problems, I think it's pretty good solution, because it has bugs. It had bugs, of course, all fixed, and you don't run over the dependency graph, I think, and you just get over those problems. Okay, let's see, what do we have more nice thing? You can have, of course, drivers. If you connect you have here a transform. Stay where you are. Transform, what was it? Transform output? Object transforms output. No, input. This is it. You get the location of someone else, which is also a possibility to do a driver, parenting. Yeah. Yeah, and if you have here just the math, again, in between, but too much, because he just separates a vector, takes one float number, and then combines it again. But for example, we do it here with ×2. You have here a nice driver, something like this, and you can of course get it complicated just as you want it, and it's like so much cooler working in the node editor than working in the drivers editor, where you have one tiny little text area where you put it in. So
does it work with amateurs?
I've never tested it. I'm really like with amateurs, no friends. But technically those are objects, and why not? I've just no idea how it works really in complicated rigs or something like this. Yeah, you have some specials here I could mention, which are not that obvious. Like for example, you have a pie menu. Here it is cool, because you have just a debug node, and you can choose the next node. For example, if you have any suggestions, sometimes, I don't know, I didn't seldom use that, or you can have a data input, just a rotation vector, something like this. Yeah, it's pretty fast to work with that W menu. Maybe for some of you would be interesting, it usually always updates the whole interface and the whole scene. You can switch this off if you're working on a more simple scene and you don't want your computer to always recalculate everything because of battery issues or something like this, you can have tree change or frame change that only recalculates if the frame is changed. You might have some difficulties if you're working on it and you have no idea why it doesn't update, and you have just frame change activated and you change the frame and then you see it gets activated. So just keep in mind that there's an important menu you have a look at, and if maybe it crashes, just click on execute node tree. It should be fine again. So yeah, here I have, for example, something small. I want to show you. You have some particles in here and he just connects them. We will later come to that. The nice thing is you have here a caching. You just, if you have something like 3000 particles here, you see like it's like 6 milliseconds of updating time, and I go to clear cache. I like 6, 7, 8, and once again I run it. It's like 0.3, which is like here nothing. But when I was working on the watch, I have some removed doubles in there, which takes really long time, and it's really nice to have the caching in there. Like up to from up to 10 node trees, it really gets slow, so slower, kind of. Yeah. Object instances is pretty nice. Same like from before with the matrix. So a translation matrix and a rotation matrix. Just dividing here 2 times p with the number of the objects, and then multiplying with the index, and then I get a circle. There, in this case, we have one special thing, which is the most difficult things in the animation nodes, is the subprogram. The sense of the subprogram is that you create a list, which is, in this case, 10 objects. I take my 10 objects, have a list, and I change each object once if I iterate through the program, which means I go here, take the object, and I do this node group with the object, and I then count 1 up, and I do this again with the second object. And which object is currently worked is here the index, and how many objects we have is the iterations. Yeah. So he said it's a for loop, and it's a for loop, yeah. So which means that if I take the index and the iterations, I can just have here a circle of objects, and you can just change here how long the circle is. Just want to have full circles, and number of the circles, and maybe just change the radius as well. And there are some nice interpolations as well. Yeah? You can iterate over, yeah, should be possible. The question was if it is possible to iterate over the single particles in a particle system. By the way, he's a developer. I'm just pushing the questions there. Yeah, it should be possible. It's also possible, we will get to that later, in a mesh to iterate over the mesh. So it's a funny part. But for example, we have here, so same setup as before, just this frame node comes there. We have a little bit of interpolation there. By the way, we can debug that interpolation as well. Sorry, Hjalti, it's not frame by frame animated. And in the end, it's looking like this. So you can really have some fun in there. By the way, to see what's possible, I just open this watch animate. Okay. solid. Ah, okay. It is? Ah, okay. Ah, by the way. Okay, I already cut the animation because that's why music is in there. And you see how these objects get in the circle moved up. And it's a little bit more complex. Complex node setup. So this is not the real node setup, it's just the group node. But you can see what is possible. I can adjust here the speed of animation, the start of animation, if the objects are visible at start or just they appear out of nothing, how big I want the radius in the end, and kind of interpolation, all stuff like this, or I want it flown in from the z-axis. And just want to show you preset therefore. It's just this big. And yeah, but in the end, it's just, I have here a frame for the translation of the objects, and I have here a just a random number if I want them randomly fly in, and it's not that difficult. It's actually just so difficult because I want always to have the possibility to solve it with not one node I made once, and just then having the switches on and off. So this is in the end what it looks like. But back to the real presentation. Let's go on with vertex locations. I have an icosphere here where I just put the another icosphere on it, which works like this. I get the vertex locations of the big icosphere, and I get the list length, which means how many vertices does this icosphere have, which is in this case 42. The answer of all questions, the meaning of life. And so 42 objects is the list length of the big icosphere. Okay, we need 42 small objects. We get this with the object instancer, and then we iterate again through another object mesh data. Yeah. Okay, that's a little bit stupid. Yeah. I asked twice the object mesh data, so we just get it here in new. Sorry? I just renamed them. Wireframe. Okay, this is the instance. Should be like So now you could probably see better. Big one and small one. Yeah. I just need the vertex locations of him because it's stupid to have a this node in here, because then ask with every iteration where the other or where the vertex locations are, and you get some performance slowdowns there. Let me see. I just need a new parameter. I need a new iterator, which is locations. Is it a vector list? Probably yes. And I just, here it is, vertex locations into the vector list. Here we go. And just get the current list element. This is supposed to be like this. Okay. It's too easy. I don't know. I'm gonna look like a pro. Anyway, yeah, and you just put simply the object to the vertex. So that's how easy it is. Everyone understood it? No. All right. The result is this. So we really get the vertex locations of the big one. We create so many instances of the small one, like we have vertices on the big one, which is 42 objects, and we now have to reposition the 42 objects. So we iterate through the 42 vertices and put on every vertex one object, which does this. So he says we have a vector list of 42 vectors or 42 vertex locations, and number 1 gets vertex location 1, number 2 gets vertex location 2, and like this. Maybe more clear? Okay.
You have to manually say 42, even though like is there no way of just extracting that information?
That's the get list thing.
Technically I could say here like I just want 8 ones on it, which is like this, or I could also say I want like more than that. I didn't have like multiple ones on the icosphere or on the same positions. So this is then the most easiest way. Just one have 42. It's like if you want to have the modifiers applied or not. It's more like something like those things. I have not really understood it. Probably deep copy or something like that you don't get any troubles. Like if you create a mesh instance and you want to bug around with the instance, you get the error message that this one is an instance of the object and multiple objects are using this mesh data block. You know what I mean? So probably something like this. You can contact the developer if you have specific questions. Something else really useful, we have here a messed up Suzanne, which has double faces on it, and I just wanna get that solved. The one I had this real issue with my watch because I use the unfold modifier, which puts this nice face-to-face folding animation, but you get the problem that every face is separated, so you get everywhere double vertexes, and you cannot shade it smooth. But you can also not put just the remove doubles in there because then the whole animation doesn't work. So I just go in the animation nodes and make again a easy linear node setup. Just get the mesh, which is like this. I remove the doubles. I put it on a new target object. So like, you know, in Blender you have the mesh data block, which is kind of separate from the object data block. So I take the mesh data block, put it on the object, which is now the target. So the original object doesn't get changed, which is also very good to work with. And I just move it. And then you see the double vertices just get away. And you see that if you just change something there, it's the same object, just gets fixed automatically. No, it's not. I think the add-on is not installed here anyway. So probably we get now in the most complex part. I hope I don't lose you. Again, an invoke subprogram. What do I put in there? I put in there the polygons of an object, and I put in there the location of an empty. What do I want to get? I want to get this effect that if I move an empty close to Suzanne, the closer faces just disappear, which means get scaled to 0. Roughly, I get here the position of the polygon. I get the empty location and the distance between them. A little bit of math. And I say kind of like if it's smaller than a certain number, it just gets scaled down. It's like just multiplying the power, nothing special, and just enclaim that it doesn't get scaled too small, which like negative or too big. And then I have the scale matrix on the polygon, which means I iterate through the polygons. I take polygon 1, take a look, what's the distance like between my polygon and the empty. I have a look if, what's the distance like, and have a look if I want to scale it or not, which is like technically this part, kind of, and then put it out on the object. And then I start again with the second. Yes?
Got a question for the input. All of this is very much just the node editor. And I know how MoCraft works, which basically does a lot of similar things, but just at a very visual basis. So in MoCraft you don't have the ability to change all the inner workings, but you have the advantage of having objects where you can actually see where the boundaries of interaction are going to happen. So like just like a force field. So my question is actually now, is there a way to get a force field object into the node editor and use those properties of like radius or so to manipulate things like this? Yes?
You can import all settings from all objects and use them with some mask to transform each polygon.
That means we could actually abuse any kind of object and modify other objects, I guess.
Yeah, like so. We can not only use fixed distance, but the scale of the object.
Everyone understood it, or should I?
So basically, you have only to evaluate the empty and just set up this node. You have this node set up.
Yeah,
Animate the empty and all the.
I just go here and set a keyframe. Again, not one by ones. Location. There we go. Something different, probably more easy. Just open, yeah. You can have the possibility to bug around with cycles materials as well. The way is that you have the cycles material output, which like, if I just duplicate it, I select the material I want in. I have to select the node I want to go in, and what I want here to change. And it's like here I have taken the color, or like no, diffuse color, and get this in there, the color. This is just an animated float, which is the most simple and the most useful node, which says I have a start value, I have an end value, and I say I want to reach the end value with a linear interpolation within 20 frames. Which means I go here in the material view, and within the 20 frames it just gets, let's make it slower. Just change the U, and I make from a HSVA color data. So yeah. It keyframes in here. Probably it's even possible. And it's like, why would I use keyframes if I have the perfect possibility to change here things? Like, I can say, if I want to reach a value of 0.1, which means, let's make 0.1, which means I change the U by 0.1. So I won't do, in this case, anything more in the F-curve editor, like just put in 2 keyframes and say, I want to start here, I want to end here. I think if you get a little bit used to this way, it just gets way more easy to handle. So like a classic driver. Probably not, no. So what I'm doing here is getting some particles and put one spline through all the particles, smooth the spline a little bit, and just put it on a new object, which is looking like this. Just feeding Suzanne. I absolutely love this effect. You can really mess you around if you have it more like this, or the big advantage is it's just a spline now. What? One single spline. He said, yeah, particle number 1, and they go to 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and like this, one spline through all the particles. And how about not mess around with a force field, because it doesn't work. Or. Okay. Okay, still too much. How about 5? So you can have really crazy stuff with this. And how much time do I have left? Minus 10. 50. Well, something very different. Okay, I've spoiled. Sorry. Just delete this target object. I have my classical 4 splines, and I want to loft it so that I get a full object out of it, which is way more nicer with. What's this? Oh, okay. Which is way more nicer with the animation nodes because I have full control. I just bring back the mirror modifier. So here we go, and I can now instantly select one and maybe just move it, or maybe I can instantly manipulate it. And Thomas Beck told me that I have to show this because this is not possible so far. I haven't tested out because I never used this, but maybe now spline modeling gets a new thing in Blender, who knows. So this is also one thing. Yeah, sure. I get a list from the 4 curves, get it into a loft node, then I get vertices and polygons out of there, combine the vertices and the polygons back again into one mesh data, create a B mesh out of the mesh data, just simple recalculate normans like pressing Control N, and put it on an object and smooth it. Sorry? I think it's not even, well, it's not even necessary because it's instantly an object, like a mesh object. So get some workflow.
But all of the changes that you're doing on mesh level will get destroyed once you update something in the nodes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because it's then has another name and doesn't get influenced by that. Like,
Is the upper one then tied to a node tree, or is it just a mesh?
sorry?
Is the upper one now tied to a node tree, or is it just a mesh?
You mean like
The one that is duplicated.
the one that's duplicated now? It doesn't appear anywhere in the node tree, which means it's completely independent from the node tree.
Just a mesh copy.
Yeah. Questions? More questions?
Yes. Sorry, other people first.
Yeah.
Can you maybe show us the watch in before playback for 1 to 2 iteration?
Yeah, sure.
Playbacks, so
I-
you see what, I mean, most of this animation I think I can't do, or I wouldn't know how to do.
Yeah.
Any way maybe
Actually, I could show the final result, which is a little bit more sexy. Presentation. Here we go. This was the unfold, and then yeah, probably the most interesting part would be where the glass is built up on the watch. I can show this, which is probably pretty much the same as the MT and the Suzanne we made before. There we are. So, it's just again the same. Okay, I have to look this up. Glass pole rotation. So the sense is pretty much the same. I get again the vector distance between an empty and the polygon. The difference is just that as soon as, just a moment, as soon as it gets scaled up, it gets rotated from a random rotation into the final rotation. That's basically the whole effect. Yeah? This animation, so I've discovered the animation nodes in July. I had a little bit of time in August and then like 3 weeks nothing, so I would say 2 weeks full time. Yeah. Because I had then the point that he refactored the whole thing and I had to redo nodes, which was pretty awesome because then I thought, well, I could do one such big node tree and then just use it once with different parameters. And yeah. Yes? So like having a cache on. You mean this mesh cache? I have no idea because all of these modifiers on the left I have never used in my life. to be honest. I just know that Manuel always keeps telling me, oh, there is so useful stuff in there, but I just so far had never the use. So I cannot answer that, sorry. Yeah? Or questions, or, yeah? We have, okay, let's search for them. So this is the full menu, by the way. I think it's best if you have a look at it yourself. Vertex info, polygon info maybe. There you go, vertices, center, normal, area, material index. So, yeah. Actually, even we use this one here because we need the center of the polygon to rotate it around. Yeah?
Can you use markers from your timeline to like, can you access them in the...
I think the only way, the only way I know to access markers is just with the camera animation. I've used that you switch active cameras, but I don't think so that there is any possibility. Yeah.
Nobody needed it so far.
Yeah?
How do you use the timing? Because watch
The timing?
the timing. In watch everything happens after another. I don't see it in one setup.
It's pretty easy because here should be everywhere an empty, which is called empty glass. There it is. And it is keyframed. And I just start moving it if I need it. This is the one part. The other part is if I use any building up of blocks, I have here my start of animation delay. Yes? Yeah, actually I'm doing it all the time since, for example, it's animated here like with the location of another object, or if I go in there I have just the time node or time information node, which comes the float number out of the current frame number, just connected in there, and there you go. Just as I did it right in the beginning. With the movement of the cube, just plug the time info into the position. Probably you'll need in between a combine vector, because you combine floats, like 3 float numbers to 1 vector, and then there you go, for example. Should I show it once again, or? Yeah? Yeah, you can have your own interpolation curves. Now he leaves. What? Wait a minute. There was from curve mapping. There you go. You can have your own interpolation, like everything. Ooh, ah. Yes. And this is what I've showed before. This is the preset. So like really the preset. Ah. I've used this before for the parent I showed, but you have different other things in there. You can also mess around with sound. I didn't show you. Maybe I could show you one last thing. You have this countdown template. It's just templates for some programs. You have here the time info, which goes through messed up, rounded, and then put onto a text. Just put a text there, and they have a countdown.
What's your workflow? Because some things were generated with the instancer and some things were modeled and then recombined.
Actually, everything was instant, which was animations where it was built up in the circle. Because why not? And it's just the simplest way. And otherwise, it's just one object which gets modified. So yeah, thank you for listening. Hope you learned a little bit. But you can, it's a bit more difficult because you can animate an object and go on the UV project modifier, and then you can move